Hey team, hope you're doing well. Today's topic is how can I increase my 2 mile run speed? Okay, when it comes to the 2 mile, because it's such a highly anaerobic event, you have to focus more on your overall leg speed and your overall leg turnover when it comes to running 8 laps of the track. It's such a highly anaerobic event. If you're running too much aerobic mileage, you're not going to prepare yourself adequately to race all out over 2 miles. Okay, the world record for the 2 mile distance is 7 minutes and 58 seconds, set by Kenya's Daniel Komen, and the world record for 2 miles was set by, I don't know her name offhand, but she's from Ethiopia, and the world record for women's 2 mile is 8 minutes and 58 seconds. Okay, so again, these are the top times that have ever been run for the distance, and it just gives you, don't compare yourself to these types of athletes, but the fact that these athletes can run at those particular paces proves what the human body is capable of. Okay, and it's just a matter of whatever your particular goal race time is, or where you're currently at. Maybe you're a 15-minute 2 miler right now, and you want to run 13:30. Okay, you have to continue to develop that leg speed and continue to train at paces that are significantly faster than goal 2 mile race pace. Okay, the types of workouts I recommend doing all the time in my training plans and in my running courses are hill repetitions. Okay, when you're doing hill repetitions, you're forced to bring your knees up and pump your arms more. Your heart rate is obviously drastically going to rise going up a hill. But when you're doing those repeat hill repetitions or doing any type of speed sessions where you're training for an event that's very short, like a 2 mile event, you're recruiting more fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, and the key to doing that is when you're recruiting more fast twitch muscle fibers, you're going to run more effectively, more efficiently. You're going to teach the body to improve its lactate tolerance so that you're able to sustain goal race pace for a longer period of time and slow down less than your competition. That is the overall goal. Okay, if you look at all the great athletes, the great 2 milers, the great milers over the years, Seb Coe from the UK, Jacob Ingebrigtsen from Norway, all of these athletes have one consistent trait that they use and they utilize often, and that's running a higher percentage of their weekly volume at a more aggressive effort. Okay, if you're running too much of your weekly volume, at least in the past, if you look back at your training logs and maybe you're still not improving as drastically as you want to improve over the 2 mile distance, look at your training and look at what percentage of that weekly volume are you doing. Are you training at or below your lactate threshold? Okay, the world's top runners, and I always talk about this in other videos, but it's really important. Always study what are the best middle to long distance runners doing. What are they doing in order to make it look so easy? Okay, so it's these athletes, yes, they do have genetic talent, but to run fast over 2 miles, you have to have both an ability to not only run fast, but you also have to have that work ethic. If you're lacking genetic talent, you can make up for it with work ethic. It's just going to take you a longer period of time as opposed to somebody that's very genetically gifted. Okay, maybe you're not an athlete that can run it for long periods of time and build up very small amounts of lactic acid when you're running. Okay, that's a trait I've seen with a lot of the world-class athletes I've trained with and lived with myself. And a lot of athletes that think that, for me personally, I've run 9:27 for 2 miles, 14:18 for 5K, and run as far as the marathon, out to the marathon, in 2 hours 19 minutes for the marathon. A lot of athletes think those are particularly respectable fast times, but I didn't have a lot of genetic talent. Okay, what most people don't see is the process that went into that event. Okay, and so if you're lacking genetic talent, then just rely on your work ethic. Continue to push hard. Continue to focus on doing your repeat miles on the track, doing longer tempo runs. If you're a 2 miler and you want to run faster of the 2 mile distance, get that duration of your tempo run, your anaerobic threshold, running at your anaerobic threshold. Get to a point where you can do a 3 to 5 mile tempo run in training. Okay, and it's not going to happen quickly. Early on when you're first training into doing your build up, a 2 to 3 mile tempo run is going to be very hard. Okay, your pace per mile or pace per kilometer is going to be slower. So just be patient with yourself. Know that you're not going to be hitting great splits in the early stages of a 2 mile train up or a 2 mile training plan. Okay, definitely check out the 2 mile training plans I have on RunDreamAchieve.com. I also have a military course that I created for military members, but it's also for civilians that want to run faster over the 2 mile distance. Okay, so that is something I definitely highly recommend you check out below. I'll leave the links to the course and the training plans below if that's something that you're interested in. You're really wanting to run faster over the 2 mile distance. Again, because the 2 mile is so short, 8 laps, matter of 2 miles, you have to get beyond just volume and how much mileage you're doing. Okay, for an athlete that really wants to drop substantial time off of their 2 mile personal best, okay, focus on running anywhere from around 25 miles to 45 miles per week. Okay, there's some athletes that might want to do a little bit more mileage than that, but just keep in mind when you're setting up your training, make sure that you're working on leg turnover and building on your endurance, continuing to run, doing those long runs. But again, as I talked about in the other videos that I've made here, don't run every single one of your long runs long, slow, and easy. Okay, the great Sebastian Coe, the former world record holder for the mile and the 800 meter, said it best. He said, long, slow running will make for great long, slow distance runners. Okay, I know that you have a particular time that you're probably going for the 2 mile distance. So again, study what the best middle to long distance runners are doing and duplicate their work habits. Okay, that's why I've really poured in all of the knowledge that I've been taught by some of the world's top distance running coaches, as well as some world-class athletes I've trained with, including Olympians. Even when I was a member of the U.S. Army World Class Athlete Program, I was very fortunate to have trained and lived with some really incredible athletes, including sub 4 minute milers, sub 2:10 marathoners, athletes that could run under 146 for the 800 meter, athletes obviously that were much faster than I ever ran for those particular races. So again, study what these athletes are doing, and that will also help you to minimize making the same mistakes that many runners are making. Okay, again, pacing is very critical if you want to run faster over the 2 mile distance, and how to increase your 2 mile running speed. Okay, in order to do that, you have to be really cognizant of doing one VO2 max workout per week. Okay, that's when you're running anywhere from 95 to 100% of your max heart rate. So examples of that might be doing 600 meter reps on the track, or repeat 200s on the track, where you're running closer down toward your 3K to 5K race pace. And again, that type of training will help you to recruit more fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, you're not going to get that particular physiological boost by running easy, relaxed running. Okay, but I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand me, I'm not saying that easy running is still not very important. It absolutely is essential. Okay, you need to be giving yourself around 48 hours of easy recovery mileage in between each one of your hard workouts that you're doing. Do not try to rush your fitness. Okay, it's going to take you a minimum of 3 weeks and probably closer toward to 4 weeks for your body to adapt to any stress load you're placing on it. So if you're doing repeat 800s, say maybe in 3 minutes and 30 seconds per rep early on right now, it's going to be hard in the early stages of your buildup. Okay, so but just know that there's going to get to a point where you're going to be able to do those reps might be down to around 305 to 310. And you're in the early stages of your buildup, you might have needed 3 minutes of recovery in between each one of those 800s. But in the latter stages of your training buildup, and when you're very anaerobically fit and very race ready, you may only need 60 seconds rest in between each one of those reps. And you want to work to a point where you are giving yourself very minimal amounts of recovery in between each one of those reps, because you're not going to get any recovery in a race, in a 2 mile. Okay. The last point I want to make here is make sure that you focus on a negative split. So what I mean by that is, if you're trying to run faster 2 mile, do not try to win the 2 mile in that first mile. Everybody's going to take off in that first mile. So be patient with yourself. Get out aggressively. You could practically run all out for 200 meters and not build up any lactic acid. So you can still get out very aggressively, but then settle into your pace and focus on those last 4 laps of the race, specifically that third lap, okay, of the second mile, because most athletes get the weakest in those last couple laps of the race. So hold back and then really focus on running your second mile faster than you run the first mile, okay? And if you haven't done this in the past, make sure you get either a pair of racing flats or spikes on when you're running this 2 mile. Do not go out there and try to run an all-out 2 mile with a pair of training shoes on. Okay, you're not going to run anywhere close to as fast as you could unless in terms of if you're wearing a pair of racing flats or spikes on your feet. Okay, again, the minimal amount of weight that you have to wear during that 2 mile, the better. Okay, so again, keep those things in mind. Continue to focus on doing a very paced long run one weekend, followed the next weekend by an easy, relaxed long run. Again, as I mentioned before, don't just get caught up with doing easy, long, slow running. Okay, this is how the training plans and how I built this particular course for military. Even though it's military related, all the concepts, I practically covered every single aspect of training for a 2 mile and dropping significant time off of a 2 mile in that course, and it's built for both civilians as well as military members. So I highly recommend checking that out. And again, the links below will let you at least check it out and see if that's something that you're interested in. I hope this video is helpful for you all. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. Leave a comment below and like this video. I really appreciate that. It helps the channel grow and more athletes and non-athletes around the world to see these videos. I really appreciate your support, and I will talk to you all in the next video.